Hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday. Welcome to our fourth and final episode of the Conductor Chat. My name is Kendra Balmer. I am a conductor, an educator, and teaching artist with Sister City's Girlchoir. I have she, her, and hers pronouns, and I'm joining you from South Philadelphia on sacred Lenni Lenape land today. I am a white woman with brown hair and blue eyes. Today I have on brown glasses and black headphones, and I'm wearing a purple and white shirt, sitting in front of a brick wall. Today I will be introducing the Conductor Chat with Sister City's Girlchoir. Join us for a campfire discussion with staff from Sister Cities that explores the evolution of our creative process from the conductor's point of view. The art strategy goal of the Girlchoir is, by 2024, to program 50% original music for every season, new musical works from our purple singing community, the youth, staff, and families. Our fourth and final episode today is titled Modeling Creativity, Expanding Practice to Support Vision. Features Alysia Lee, the founder and artistic director of Sister Cities Girlchoir. We will unpack the art strategy goal of Sister Cities Girlchoir. We will walk step by step through the vision to implementation and share clips and student artifacts along the way. We hope that you will join us on April 30th for the When I Sing watch party. It's this Friday, friends. April 28th, the first-time collaborators, Sister Cities Girlchoir and the Intercultural Journeys present the virtual premiere of When I Sing, a vibrant performance of original music and poetry. We will provide full details for this event at the end of today's episode. The piece combines 4 original songs by the youth of Sister Cities Girlchoir with visual storytelling and poetry, all exploring sisterhood, creativity, and the power of defining your own voice. When I Sing is supported in part by an award from the National Endowment for the Arts. Additional support for the project came from the Presser Foundation, the Musical Fund Society of Philadelphia, and Comcast Corporation. This concert also features original works from our youngest singers and a few classic selections composed by Kirk Franklin and Quincy Jones. Now it's my great honor to introduce 2 of my colleagues. First, we'll be meeting Anne Agresta Dugan, conductor, voice teacher, and singer and proud member of the staff of Sister Cities Girlchoir. Hi, Anne.
Hi, Kendra. Thank you so much. Yeah, so my name is Anne, Miss Anne in the Sister City world, and I go by she, her pronouns. I am a white woman in my 40s. I have chin-length dark brown hair. I'm wearing purple glasses and a purple and white Sister City sweatshirt, and I'm sitting in front of a peach wall with some paintings on it. And I'm coming to you from Elkins Park, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of Philadelphia on sacred Lenni Lenape land.
Welcome, Anne. It's also my pleasure to introduce to you the Alysia Lee, founder and artistic director of Sister Cities Girlchoir. Good morning, Alysia.
Good morning, Kendra. And hi, everyone. I'm joining from my home in Baltimore City, which is on the land of the Piscataway tribe. So giving honor to the Piscataway Kanoi. I use she, her pronouns. And I am a Black woman with pecan brown skin and big curly hair, always a red lip. And I'm wearing a purple sweatshirt. Behind me is, well, a fireplace now. A fireplace.
That's right. We're toasty today.
We're toasty. We're immersive.
Right.
And so I'm happy to join you all today.
Okay, so Kendra, you keep an eye on the Facebook page for us. So people, if you are watching, make sure you're dropping down and dropping your questions in the chat, saying hi to us, giving us a little love on the Facebook page. First, Alysia, I'm so excited to get to feature you and the passionate work that you have been doing with Sister Cities for 9 years now. And I would like to know a little bit more. And I know that our audience would really like to know a little bit more about you and your roots as a musician and the roots and the origins of Sister Cities Girlchoir. So let's watch a little video here.
Here we go. I have always loved to sing. And when I was a little girl, my dad and I would listen to records for hours and hours. When I was in middle school, I would write the lyrics of my favorite songs in my notebooks and carry them around. And by the time I got to high school, I was ready to take full advantage of all of the performing opportunities in front of me. Music class gave me openings to theater. And so I was in the shows, I was in the choir, I was taking voice lessons, I was in the recitals. Anytime there was an opportunity to open my mouth and sing, I was there. After grad school and undergrad, I moved to New York and started a chamber ensemble with some friends from Peabody called Opus 9. And that was the first place where I got to really flex my creativity muscles because we were in charge of producing the whole concert experience, from the repertoire to the venue, and really trying to be really creative about ways to draw people in to see our work. And that's when I also learned about El Sistema. So late one night after an Opus 9 rehearsal, I got a post on my Facebook page from a friend with a video to the Simón Bolívar Youth Orchestra playing at the proms. And they were playing so exuberantly. I mean, they could barely sit in their chairs. Every note was perfect. It was precise, but also expressive. And I was blown away. And they were all brown. And I wanted to know, who were these kids? So that took me down a rabbit hole, and I learned about El Sistema, Venezuela's musical system that had been the vision of Dr. Abreu at this point, almost 40 years prior. In addition, I learned about famous alums like Gustavo Dudamel, the music director at the LA Phil, and the ways that they were combining this idea of excellence and access to create a new reality for young people and their communities. And so that's how I found out about the TED Prize that Dr. Abreu won, that created the Sistema Fellowship at New England Conservatory. Now, I was all poised and ready to apply, and I saw that they were only accepting instrumentalists at the time. So I knew I needed to share in my application how strongly I felt that that was a mistake. Singing and social change go hand in hand, and NAC was about to make a 5-year commitment to train 50 musicians that were classical musicians that had a heart for music and social change, and they were going to do so without singers. No way, not on my watch. So I presented my application and interviewed for the fellowship with the same idea that you can't not disconnect singing and social change. They go hand in hand. Every social change movement has used music, specifically song, to convey their ideas, to bring people together, to add to the discourse at the time. You cannot separate out vocal music and social change. It can't be done. And we still see song weighing heavily and prominently in our social justice movements. And they believed me. And I was the first singer admitted to the Sistema Fellowship. And every year after that, there was always a singer in every class until the fellowship closed after the agreed upon five years. The Sistema Fellowship was an incredible opportunity. I got to travel to tons of Sistema programs all across the world, really, and meet with folks and talk to leaders and also teach and meet kids. And it was such a whirlwind, with so much learning about pedagogy, community exchange, the radicalization of folks, and just it really sparked my mind about how to build a body of work here that would connect with people who look like me in my community. And halfway through the Sistema Fellowship, after months and months of research and learning, I came up with a theory of change that was rooted in some new research around the girl effect. The idea that by investing in adolescent girls, we can make transformative change for our communities. And Sister Cities Girlchoir was born. I launched Sister Cities in the summer of 2012 with a dozen young women from the Kensington, Philadelphia neighborhood. And within a few years, really, we had hundreds of kids in the program across all grade levels. We were able to attract team members, so staff that fully understand and have enveloped the mission of Sister Cities, which is to center children and the things that they care about in a musical community and use all of the benefits that come from doing hard things together, like making music. All the benefits of social emotional benefits, academic benefits, friends, colleagues, peers, non-parental adult positive relationships, all of those benefits for the young people that are there. To really create a youth-centric organization was really the goal. And I've been so lucky that we found and attracted partners, staff, families, and youth that believe in our mission. This is girl empowerment through music, girl empowerment through song.
Oh, I love this so much. I mean, being a part of it and still just feeling so inspired by this. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It sounds to me like a real inflection point for you was that coming home after that rehearsal and watching that video that your friend posted on Facebook and sharing all three of us a classical musician background where we tend to be, even we care about our audiences, but really we care about like the perfecting our instrument and performance practices, and we can be very self-focused.
Yes.
You were coming from that, and yet this friend thought of you.
Yes.
Specifically. Can you tell us a little bit about like why do you think that friend thought this would be something for you?
Yes. Well, classical musicians have very strange parties. I didn't know they were strange until like my brother went to college and I was like, that's what you do at parties. So we have very strange parties. You know, we even as a freshman, we would order bottles of wine. We never had keggers and listen to everyone would bring a score and listen to Marriage of Figaro together with the score and follow along, or Rizolka. Very strange parties. And when you become an adult, you still have strange parties. And at our strange adult parties, we would talk about kind of being dissatisfied in a way with the trajectory of where our careers were going, because they seemed to be going towards isolation. And that wasn't the way many of us started making music. We started making music from a much more collective place. Yeah. So for me, like music for me is about family. And when I think about singing, I think about singing with my dad. When I got older, I, was a member of a youth choir, a community youth choir, and we would travel all over. And those were my closest friends. And of course, high school, going to performing arts high school and really, taking in friendships there. Yeah. But this idea, I think there might be a microphone on. I think so. This idea that yep, this idea that music starts to veer us towards just being alone. Even at the age of 20, whatever I was, it was like, that's not what I want. And we would drink, we would, again, be sipping our wine. And this was the ennui we were feeling in our 20s. So we were constantly talking about that. How can this music was so important to us, but we had to admit, I had seen this quote about football coaches. The best football coach is a football coach that knows that football is everything and that football is nothing. And I was like, that's what we've got to bring to this game. Classical music is everything to so many of us. It's also nothing. It's really actually not important, right? On the scale of a whole life, right? There are other things that are much more important, but it's also everything. And so how can we not just like get other people to come to our concerts and support us and sit in the audience, but how can it feel like when folks are in the audience that we've done something together? What might that be like? That it feels like a family reunion every time you come together, instead of just like a performance and you're over there patronizing my work and I'm in isolation up here. So we were talking about that all the time and kind of throwing out big ideas. And, you know, Lucille Clifton reminds us that if you can't imagine it, right, you can't create anything you can't imagine. So we were just dreaming, and often wine-induced dreaming. But we were all dreaming about a better life trajectory for ourselves. We did not, that isolation towards the top of classical music success did not seem like it was for us. And by creating this ensemble, it was a double string quartet, and a wind quartet, and then a quartet of singers. This idea of just like building a collective together was a part of that, but we knew that there was going to be more. And all those folks have gone on to do really remarkable things, all with the same ideas of like, the career doesn't have to be isolating. It can actually be connecting. This musical skills that we have can actually be glue. And we might learn something from other people, because sometimes we forget. A lot of times we as classical musicians show up in every space ready to teach. And it's like, actually, that's lonely too. So what opportunities can we create for ourselves where we are also continuing to expand as humans? And so that was kind of what we were talking about at our weird classical music parties.
That is so fantastic. And I relate to the parties and to the conversation.
So weird parties. Yeah, these are weird parties. Yeah.
Weird. We harmonize with each other. Yeah.
So strange.
I love this. I really, really love this. Even just the idea of like coming from community and then going to isolation and then saying, no, actually, I need the community. And I know there's a community of hundreds of girls and artists that you have worked with in the last 9 years that are so grateful that you had that inflection point and you were having those great wine parties. So we have been working in the last few years now with these creative process maps. And I know you're going to share them with us right now. And why you share them, I would love to know just like, why is it helpful for teaching and learning, and what actually drew you to using this creative process map as our process at Sister Cities?
Absolutely. So these maps were developed at the Maryland State Department of Education, where I work there. And they were not developed by me. I inherited them and then have taken them and just kind of dug into them even deeper. But they were created with the input of teachers, teaching artists, in reaction to the new National Core Art Standards. The National Core Art Standards really create a new emphasis on the creative process being, or creativity and creation itself, being a part of a robust music education from pre-K through 12th grade. So that means that even in those high school ensembles, students should still be creating, not just presenting work. And even with our youngest students, we should allow them opportunities to create original work that showcase their ideas. So the creative process map looks first at the ways that we take a concept and are inspired by it. And I'm using the little movements from the icon here. And then we start to explore it, right? And we create a draft. Then we elevate that work by using feedback from peers, from teachers, and from self. We assess the work to see if it's ready to share with others. And if it's not ready, then we just go back through the loop and we keep elevating. Sometimes we even go back and say, is this really an idea that's inspiring enough to me? Maybe I need to clarify what ideas are really interesting to me. And if it is ready, we go forward, we share the work, and then we reflect on the entire process as a way to spur us into the next piece. We started to use the creative process map in these kind of domains in our rehearsals to look at ways to elevate the work that we were doing with repertoire. Like, how could we really get students to spark dialogue about the themes in the piece, and for also everyone to have a communal understanding about what the piece meant, and also the musical ideas in the piece. So how could we, by using the idea of this piece is about this central concept, get students to make musical choices that we could all agree upon, so that we weren't just asking students to crescendo, but the crescendo was possibly part of a narrative, right? Or part of an idea. And we all agreed that that crescendo had to happen in order to communicate the ideas around the piece in a more very clear way. So we started using this map in that way. And I think it was super helpful. Number one, we are a team of many, so a lot of us work with different ensembles, but to have some central pieces around the ways that we were all thinking about the music was very helpful, because in a lot of cases we share repertoire. So when we would bring students together, we had some common, we were seeing more and more that we had common language, not just the common repertoire, but a common language to talk about where we were in the piece. The second thing is we started to see students being more proactive about making musical choices. The way we were teaching before was much more related to, I think, the way we learned in college, which was we were saying, okay, great, we're going to make this crescendo. And we may have given them a why, but we didn't give them an opportunity to also say, well, actually, I think section B should decrescendo, because the story, we didn't really give them space to kind of discuss that. There wasn't that space in rehearsal. And when we first started doing this, students were reticent to do it because they weren't practiced doing it. But as we started to kind of guide students through this process and really highlight and articulate where we were and what was happening, and also make more space for a lot of peer feedback, students started articulating musical ideas. And that was really exciting for them to say, actually, I think I'm not hearing my own soprano section, articulate those terminal consonants the same way the altos are. And it's creating confusion with the text. Or actually, I don't think we're crescendoing, so we need to start out a little softer. So students started to really not just think about the how of the why this was happening, but also like the how they could execute it. So we started to see their technical skills get better. And that was really exciting. So it's like, wait, all the pieces of artistry are here in a deeper way. Students are identifying musical ideas. Students are creating their own musical ideas, and they're communicating and responding, right? And so what was left for us was, when do they get an opportunity to share their own ideas, right? When do they get an opportunity to think through a concept, maybe that a composer has put forward, and say, and how does this relate to me? And sure, responding, but then also how would I communicate it out as an idea musically? And why musically? Because we're in a music class. Yeah. So I think that's really important. And when we shared this idea, I think the first person to start talking to about it was Anne, because Anne and I teach a lot together. It seemed like every time we talked about it in staff, light bulbs would go off and everyone was like, yeah, that makes sense, that we would start to, we weren't sure how we would do it, but that it would become important that students would have opportunities to create original works, and that we would guide them through the whole process so they'd be fully elevated and strong and from the community, and that we would present these works. Now, when we asked the kids, we are constantly, I remember kind of leading a dialogue with a group of our oldest students who've been in choir for a long time, just kind of teasing this idea. I didn't say that we were going to do it, but I just think, like, what would it be like if you all had more ownership over the choir? They're like, we already fully own the choir. They were like, we already own everything, but it's important, like they already were like, no, we are fully, you give us a lot of freedom. We have, they felt that. And so that's another space where, like, sometimes we have to push our students beyond what they even, like, some students may be wanting these opportunities, but sometimes when you ask your students, they're going to say, I love this program just like it is, don't change a thing. But sometimes we have to push our students and ourselves a little beyond even what we know to be great, because I think now those same students would never want to go back to things the way they were after having seen what we've been able to accomplish by using the creative process.
Oh, that's so great. I also love the idea of just like pushing the students, believing before they believe, right?
Yes.
But also doing that for yourself as an educator, to say, all right, I believe in me before I'm totally sure how this is going to happen. And it's so true. Every time we talk about this, I'm like already buzzing, and I can see Kendra like nodding her head ferociously. Like,
yeah, it's such a game changer. Absolutely.
It's been a whole new thing for all of us. And yeah, I think it's like, now it's like, why didn't we do this before? Well, we were building up our capacities, right? We were also building up trust in the community, and trust with each other, because we as a team have really come to a place where we've been very intentional about that from the get-go, but we've been very intentional about building trust with one another. So we trust each other. We trust our ability to do hard things that we don't always know how they'll turn out, and to like work, do it together, right? We really believe in and I think our own capabilities of trying hard things as a team. The kids really trust us to lead them in lots of different ways. Like, we're trying this crazy thing over here. Let's do this. We're going to Montreal, y'all. It's like we're not sure how we're going to go, but we went, right? So and the parents and the families and our stakeholders and our donors saying, I trust these people, that they are on the pulse and they know what comes next. So, when you've built that trust, it's time to start thinking about ways to innovate. And sometimes we don't need to innovate for innovate's sake. I'm not saying that, but when you see gaps, it's time to take a leap, and we leap together.
Yes. And so part of that leap, right, is this art strategy goal of Girlchoir by 2024, programming 50% of original music for every season, right? This from our singing community, staff, choir members, and families. And we talk so much about our work being a brave space, right? And we're so connected to that. And this strategic goal really strikes me. This work that we're talking about is such brave work, as we've said, because we don't see a lot of classical musician-led creative organizations that work with youth, kind of really trusting them to step out this way.
Yes.
And so just to kind of further that, like, how do you see this as a brave strategic goal? And why does that matter to you as our founder at SCG? And why does it matter to the organization?
Absolutely. And we don't see a lot of classical music organizations taking this on. There are a few. I was lucky to meet some last summer through the International Contemporary Music Project, but there's not many. And this idea of how we select composers in the classical sphere is different than even in the pop music world, in the hip hop world. In the classical music world, a composer is someone that we identify early on has really great music literacy and a lot of years of playing. Not necessarily a kid who's like bursting with musical ideas. We don't connect that with, we're like, oh great, you have a lot of musical ideas, but you don't have the literacy. You'd be a great player. And so we start to do that. And what we wind up with really, well, you can imagine what we wind up with there in terms of who composes. We lose a lot. We lose a lot of stories. We lose a lot of world perspectives. And we wind up with a kind of very narrow view of the world in our compositions. And we start to see that the compositions don't always match. I mean, at Sister Cities, we have a hard time sometimes finding repertoire that really matches with the kids. A lot of the music that we hear on the radio that the kids would like to sing is not really available through the, they're not really arranged, right? Like the pop songs get arranged, but the hip hop and R&B songs don't get arranged for students. And some of them, some of the songs, like, sure, some of the songs have adult themes, but I'm talking about the ones that are even appropriate for kids. We don't see them on the shelves. Then a lot of the pieces are written for kids by adults. We often lose track of how sophisticated kids are when we become adults. And so we write for children in a very juvenile way, and the words don't really match with how sophisticated they are and feel. And then, of course, there's this piece of, like, as a girl choir, we were finding a lot of the pieces were talking about femininity in a way that didn't fit, I think, with our modern ideas around gender. Our girls, our youth don't feel like flowers too much. Even our youngest girls, they feel, if anything in nature, I always say they feel like volcanoes. They feel like lava flowing. They feel like, when I come through and I'm changing stuff. I'm a leader. They don't feel like they're waiting for bees to come and pollinate them. So we really, this goal was like, it was like imperative, right? That we make more space instead of just always complaining, like, oh, I wish there was music that really matched. It's like, I bet you the music that matches your group of kids would come from, I don't know, those same people. So, but the bravery comes in for us, right? It's not really the kids are building the braces, but the bravery comes in us as adults, because this is not our expertise, composing. We have been trained as singers and conductors, right? We have, however, access to composition skills. I have the same story I tell everyone. A non-musical friend took me out for lunch, and I was complaining about all of this, and they said, didn't you go to music school? Don't you have a master's degree from Peabody? You can't write a song? And I was like, I'm a singer. How dare you? How dare you say I should write the songs? I don't write the songs, I sing them. And of course, that tormented me for hours. I was like, of course I write songs. I never shared them with people from a point of saying, I composed this. I was, I wrote this little song, you want to hear it? So, and so we have to start to think of ourselves. That's where the bravery comes in, is to say the internal work and to look at the ways we've limited our mindsets. And sometimes that we've also limited the skills that we have, and acknowledge that and figure out, okay, am I going to let that just hinder me and I'm going to stay there? Or am I going to be brave and find some new skill sets, find some new mindsets and work together? And everybody on our team was like, we're going to be brave. But that's, I think, where the bravery comes. And it's for us as adults. It's hard.
Yes. And so much power comes out of brave adults trusting each other and working together, as we'll see. So we're going to roll back to 2017 because we kind of have been scaffolding up to this work to get ready for the 2024. And of course, this last year really kind of, I think, put us on a fast track to this goal. And so I know we have a video to share where we've been since 2017.
In 2017, when we all agreed on our art strategy goal to increase the original music performed by Sister City's Girlchoir, we indeed had a lot of work to do. We wanted to move intentionally and with urgency, but also we wanted to move no faster than the speed of trust and confidence. And so that first season, our first big project was with the Philadelphia Orchestra. Our forever friend, Todd Mackover, and our favorite orchestra conductor, Yannick, set out to compose a piece using the whole community as collaborator. And Sister Cities got to spend a lot of extra time with Todd, giving their ideas or musical ideas, and their text and sound made it into the finished piece. Then they got to premiere the piece at the Kimmel Center with the Philadelphia Orchestra. And then they got to go on tour and premiere the piece at Carnegie Hall. It was a real dream come true. And we got to see what happens when we take ideas, turn them into sound in a collaborative way. The following season, we collaborated with our favorite jazz singer, Joanna Pascal, who is a Philly jazz icon, as she expanded her piece Tree of Life for choir. Joanna invited us so generously to present a 20-minute set at her upcoming concert at World Cafe Live, in addition to premiering her arrangement of Tree of Life, her original composition, for choir. So it was an opportunity for us to learn about a creative process that was a little different, right? Taking an existing work and expanding it for others to participate and jump in. Joanna came and visited with us a few times, and she sang for us and talked about her creative process. She even took us on the road for some of the marketing events, right? And we really felt like we were a part of the whole process with Joanna. So when those girls took the stage, they were connected to an artist and her process. And off we were to the next season, 2019-2020, where we had the amazing pleasure of working with the phenomenal Suzette Ortiz, learning about improvisation and circle singing. And the Kennedy Center awarded me the Citizen Artist Fellow for the work that we do with Sister Cities. And this has really increased our capacity by opening us up to new partners, new artists that are willing to share so generously their creative process with the singers of Sister Cities. And just a few months later, we got to perform for Sweet Honey in the Rock and open for them with a lobby performance at the Delaware Opera House, and then meet them backstage.
Truly, truly exciting. Just, it feels like we just were there, right? When watching that. So what did you know? I love that you talk about the friend taking you out and saying, well, why don't you just write a song? What did you know about composing and facilitating composition with students? And what were the ways that you really had to elevate that work in yourself to see this goal implemented?
Sure. I had never done a composition as a formal process. And I'm saying this as a person, I just sent off my first commissioned choral work from the engraver, and it's beautifully bound to Baltimore Choral Arts Society last week. And I was like, this is unreal. You know what I mean? But I had never called myself a composer. I wouldn't even have said a songwriter. I wrote songs. I was very dedicated to the classical tradition, but I would write songs and invent songs, and sometimes commit them to memory, not really committing them to, I would say, to write them down. So a lot of times just letting them fleet out of my head, like, one of my favorite music educators is Maria Ellis, and she has all these videos where she's just like, trying to teach her kids like the key signature for F major. And she's like, all right, what can I say? She's like, F major's got one flat. How many flats has it got? All right. And I reckon, right. And one of her students recently said, Miss Maria, where do you write, where do you get all these songs from? She was like, I just made these songs up when you were confused about what to remember. If you ask me to sing it again, I cannot. So this idea of just like, a lot of us as musicians are melody makers, right? And now, in terms of what knowledge I had about how to facilitate composition, absolutely none. That is not the word collaborative composition. I didn't even know what that meant. And we found too, even in partnerships, sometimes we'll say that word, the two words make sense. It's like, I can imagine, but we mean something very specific. We found that sometimes working with partners, like that word is misunderstood. But because the two words are known, people are like, oh, I kind of get what that means. And so we have to be a little more specific. So we're talking, when we say collaborative composition, we're talking about a group of people being facilitated by a person who's not sharing any of their musical ideas, but who is harnessing the creativity of that group to compose one song. And that is a crazy process that happens culturally in lots of different kinds of spaces. We've been so lucky. We'll show some of the amazing people we've worked with recently to do that. But this does happen a lot culturally. The work of Dr. Martha Gonzalez, for instance, which we'll see later, is very deeply rooted in Chicana tradition. And as she describes that work, I'm like, oh, this reminds me very much of my Black church traditions, sitting with each other. And again, we never thought of them as compositions, so to say. We would sit and write songs together and sing them. And some of them would go on, to become infamous melodies we would remember forever, but many didn't. And we were fine. It was about the process of making together, more so than the product. So we had a lot to learn. We both took a class with Moira Smiley in the summer, and that was a really great point. We took a class called body percussion, and Moira was like, lovely, lovely. And she gave us a little body percussion lecture and some exercises. And then she said, great, for class 2, everyone show up with an original song. And we were like, what is she talking about?
Okay. And we do what we're told.
We do. We are good students. So we were like, next class, you mean the very next one? So we all did it. And that piece for me was Say Her Name, which was my first piece to be published. And I will share a minute clip of that whenever we're ready.
I'm ready. Let's share it.
Here we go. So shout out to Eugene Rogers, University of Michigan. They had over 300 singers perform this piece in virtual performance. this fall, and it's a social justice piece that really calls upon us to remember the victims of police brutality. And unfortunately, this piece every week gets more and more poignant. Unfortunately, so it's been very difficult. It's been very difficult to see that the piece keeps getting more and more important. But it's also brought a lot of healing to communities. It's been a touchstone of dialogue for a lot of choirs to talk about racialized subjects. I mean, I think the only way to really combat racism in institutions is to build up the capacity and the frequency that we have racialized dialogue, and we get people really comfortable and used to having racial conversations, because our silence allows racism to persist. So this piece, I think, has been helpful this year for a lot of choir communities in doing that. And again, is a song that, without thinking, without this lens of being like, trying to model this for our students, right? That we are composers, the piece may never have been shared. So, I'm grateful for this community, because it really has set that mindset up for me of like, it's important that we share our stories and our perspectives, and they're valid, and other people are waiting to touch them, because they waiting to see their perspectives, and also a foil of their perspective, to hear a new idea. And we all have something so rich to share. So that's what's happened with Say Her Name being shared.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you've shared, and so brave to step out and say, "You're right. I do have something to say. Let me just take the first step here." And it grew into this beautiful, beautiful, necessary tool, really, to share. In addition to being just a beautiful piece of music, right?
I love that idea of a tool, music as a tool.
Yeah.
I do want to prop up Hal Leonard. Hal Leonard is really been very open to this conversation of that, all these things I have, these feelings I have about published music. They've been very open to hearing these ideas. And this fall, we will be debuting with Hal Leonard a new choir series, right? So it's called Exigence for Young Voices. It's looking specifically at Black and Brown composers that are writing for younger voices, for elementary and middle school voices, maybe beginning high school. So, we're going to bring new composers to y'all. And Hal Leonard is really embracing this idea of like new voices, new ideas, and really working to service the communities where, because this music is not just for our choirs, our youth choirs that are Black and Brown, but it is centered in them. It's an opportunity to center them. And that's very much what Sister Cities is. Sister Cities is open to white children. We have white kids in our choir, but it's built to be the students that are centered when we think of programming are our Black and Brown students. And that's a paradigm shift for for the world, to really center people of color or Black, Brown, and Indigenous Asian students. But that's what we do at Sister Cities. And so I'm excited to see like how Leonard say, yeah, let's support a series of that. So things are changing for the better, and it's time to move. It's like, it's time to move forward with new change.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Right. And there's no better way to center youth, Black and Brown voices than to pull from them what it is that they want to say. So this year we jumped in and we have had all of our ensembles composing. So we have a compilation of like our season overview, and you get a little sneak peek at what we've been up to.
brilliant, 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 brilliant. So I just want to call our attention to the fact that we had this, our goal was by 2024 to get to this 50% place. But in tallying up our songs, we've discovered we're already there. We've hit the goal early. Bing, 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 bing.
Look at how many songs. Look at that.
We hit the goal early. So we have 18. These are all of our artistic projects, including our staff performance and our graphic score composition. But also there are 18 songs in the repertoire we sang this year, which is also insane that we made 18 video products, but 9 of them are original. 9 of them are original songs.
50%.
Here we go. So
It's
we
incredible.
are overachievers.
Did it.
So it's not that scary, not that hard.
It's not that hard. No. The kids are they have so much to say. We could have written more songs probably this year. We just didn't have we didn't have the capacity to know we could. So they have so much to share and say, and once they get going, I think next year, who knows what this number will be. So we made it, y'all, which is very exciting. Beautiful to see this year kind of compact like that. I mean, and all of these projects are so beautiful. This is in addition to performances at the Kennedy Center, performances all around town, field trips and partnerships, and, performance-based activities. These are just the composition activities that we've been doing. And I want to also just recenter why Sweet Honey in the Rock is for us is a composition piece. Sweet Honey in the Rock, this is also where we got that 50% number, right? Is that they in a performance, they'll present 50% original songs. And so we wanted the girls to see that as this organic experience and to comment on it. And what Sweet Honey does is they're like, oh, coming up next is such and such a song. She wrote it. When did you write this song? She said, oh, I don't remember. I think it was in 19 such and such. Yeah, you remember you were sitting in the bus and you wrote it down. Oh, okay. And they kind of, they talk about the songs, right? And there were girls afterwards who were like, they wrote a lot of those songs. I was like, wow, maybe, next year we're going to start writing some of our songs. We could have that in a couple years where we're like, oh, who wrote this one? You did. Oh, come step down. Yeah, what'd you write this one about? And there were girls who were really excited about that. There were some girls who were like, that seems hard. I don't know about that. But there were some girls who were really excited about that possibility. But to see it in action, to see how connected those women were and how the audience responded. And I mean, they are dynamic performers. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a show in and of itself. But that piece, we wanted them to see these, singers who write together and also write separately and share the work, so that was why that was a part of the composition ideas that we're thinking.
Important to see important words being sung on stage meaningfully.
That too.
Right?
Oh, that too.
And again, brave. And so thinking about educators out there, just I'm wondering if you have just a couple thoughts to share with people who are stepping into rehearsals or stepping into classrooms, using some kind of a creative process. What advice would you give them?
Number one advice I would give is don't do this alone. We as music folks, we tend to isolate, maybe because we spend so much time in practice rooms. So, but a music teacher, you might be the only music teacher in your building, right? And so you're the only person who really understands your content. Use the network, get on Facebook and find some music educator friends if that's the last resort, but maybe folks in your local community that you can connect with and create professional learning communities for yourself. It's been very vital, I think, for the growth of Sister Cities that as a kind of requirement really to stay here on staff, you have to be open to feedback from other people. So, and everybody's not cool with that. But also that might be a requirement to work with me, period. So let everybody be on high alert. I'm thinking of my whole work day. I'm like, yeah, everybody should know that. So, I work with an amazing team at the State Department of Education. We're all very open to feedback with each other. We see it as a gift. So, but that's not, people don't always think that. So if I have a typo on something and somebody tells me, I'm not thinking, who do you think you are? I'm thinking, thank goodness before I sent this out. Thank you. And even if it's like months later, and you say, "Hey, I noticed a typo in something that your name is on it. Thank you." I would never see it and say, "How dare you?" Right? And this idea of feedback, that would be my second piece, is build up your own capacity to get feedback, because when you can do that, the sky is the limit for what you can achieve and accomplish, because then you get to use the not just your own intelligence, you're able to excel and grow at the rate of everyone around you. So, we've got to work in community to do hard things. We can't work in isolation. And the third thing is to start to work on building up your own capacity for self-belief in your ability to do hard things, whatever that requires of you, right? If you've got toxic people around you, get rid of them. If you need some therapy, go take it. If you need to start journaling more so you can find some gratitude in your day, do that. But find a way to improve your own self-love around the ability to do hard things. Because what it's going to take for us as educators to really transform music education is it's going to take us continually reminding ourselves that the way we've been taught what worked for us at the time and does not fully service our students, and we have to decrease so that they can increase. And that takes humility. And you have to constantly be willing to just say, here's another moment where I'm being humble. Yep, here comes that same feeling again. So having a community that holds you accountable, right? But also having a community where you can celebrate your successes. When that screen popped up about the Kennedy Center honor and you guys were cheering, I don't think everybody has that, but you can find it. You can find colleagues who are excited about your successes and also see themselves in your successes. That wasn't a win for me, it was a win for our work together. So find that community. Facebook has been crazy about learning about new music educators. I've been making music educator friends since COVID, and we've all been in isolation. I have music educator friends. I don't know these people in real life. I've never met Maria Ellis before. I am in full support of everything she does. She puts out a t-shirt, I buy it the same day. Okay. So we've learned so much about each other, but there's ways for us to be connected. You have to build a community. And we've got to get to that place where we can decrease so our students might increase. And so I'm glad to work with both of you and the rest of our team, because the adults that work at Sister Cities really do understand that sometimes you have to step back so that your students can have the spotlight moment, but also, this is not about us. This is not about us. This is about them. I'm there for you to support and prod whatever you need, and ultimately even all of that is about you. I'm looking to see, what do you need, right? And musically, that might mean I need to learn some new things, and that's humbling. I might need to make some new partnerships. I might need to invite some other people in so that my students have a well-rounded experience, not so that I can just show off what I know. There was a person on Facebook last week, I want to say it was Shantae Pittman, who's another music educator. I don't know, but I celebrated when she got her doctorate last week as if I knew her. I was like, yay! Facebook, right? But this idea of that we have to start to think of our music spaces not as a representation of our artistry, but as a representation of our students. And I was like, that is exactly what this is. That's what we're trying to do. When you see choirs, we instantly turn to the conductor and say, wow, your choir is so great. Actually, I'm not even in the choir. I'm too old to be in. I'm almost 40. I'm not a member of Sister Cities. This represents their work. I don't feel any ownership over mine or not minor. I only feel proud of it because of that. It's their work. And that is beautiful, to have more products like that where it represents the student's artistry and not my own. And if I have an itch for my artistry to also be commended or welcomed, then I have to make my own art.
Ooh, that's challenging to a lot of people who feel like maybe they need to give themselves permission to make their
That's
own.
right. You have to give yourself permission. That's
And
right.
I think that this all circles back to when we were talking in the beginning about how this career can sometimes end up being isolating. And this is encouraging collaboration. You're encouraging educators and directors to collaborate within their community and move forward, taking somewhat scary, what might feel like a scary chance to do something and grow as a model of growth to our students.
Yeah.
Beautiful, Kendra.
Yeah. I read a quote last week, and it's just kind of like just a thought that I have kind of like as a closing thought for myself anyway, is someone was talking about like living a really authentically passionate, inspired life. And the requirement is that you are doing work that you feel really attached to and inspired by, and a willingness to grow around everything we've been talking about. And the addendum to it was, and also it doesn't have to be like your complete invention. You can partner up with someone and link arms with them, and you can step into someone's vision and help grow that. And I know for myself that this experience of working with Sister Cities, how gracious you have been about having this vision that we saw in the first video, and then saying, come on in, there's room here.
Oh, nice.
And this is this collaborative community, and we are growing together. This is unique. But just really such a beautiful experience as a human, as a musician, as an educator, the whole thing.
We have to work together. We can all be better when we climb together as one. So thank you to those young people for those words. And they are giving us the tools to liberation. And the tool is collectivism. The tool for a new day is for us to go together. So bravo. Bravo, Sister Cities Girlchoir.
Yay! This is so wonderful. This has been so wonderful. Thank you for sitting by the fire with us.
Absolutely. I think we're moving forward to Coda, to closing statements, and then we'll wrap it up.
This has been wonderful. We have so much activity in our chat as well, and just so many comments and compliments about the work that we've done and how this is really needed, especially for youth music. And that just goes to show, I feel this has been a really special home to my own artistry and growth. And I'm just so excited that, as Anne had alluded to before, this year, that which could have been a pause in our work, really actually set us forward on our journey. So I'm excited to see where we keep going.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I kind of shared a last thought there, so I'm going to toss it over to you, Alysia.
Sure. My last thought is that music is so important, and at the same time, it's not important, right? This is the words of that famed football coach. Football is important, but it's also not important. So we have to remember that. What's really important are relationships. And so the more that we use music as a tool to build relationships, I think the happier we'll all be. So as a music educator, how is music, I love this, Anne brought up this idea of music as a tool. So just start to think for yourself, what are you using? Music is a tool. It's not a thing, it's a tool to something. What is your music tooling? Are you creating community and dialogue? Are you creating despair? What are you creating with your music and with your musical work? And how can you elevate that towards what you really want to build in the world? And I think if everyone kind of just sharpens their mind towards that and thinks about it a little bit, that reflection will go a long way to uplift us all. We're all in this together. We've got a far way to go. And I'm excited to be on this journey with both of y'all and all the rest of our team at Sister Cities.
Thank you so much, Anne and Alysia. This was phenomenal. I am thanking everyone for joining us, for watching today, and I just want to remind you, we hope that you join us this Friday, April 30th, for the When I Sing watch party. It is the first time collaboration of Sister Cities Girlchoir and Intercultural Journeys as they present the virtual premiere of When I Sing, a vibrant performance of original music and poetry. Be there or be square, friends. It's going to be the party of the year. And then also learn more about Sister Cities Girl Choir on our website. Find out what we will be doing, what we have done. Check out our other episodes of Conductor Chat that are posted there, as well as our music from this year. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.